Okay, we are back in the garage to try to fix the brake leak that we found the other day. Um, what my plan of attack is, I went to the parts store and just bought an already flared section of the copper nickel brake line. Got another flared tool in case we need to adjust this in any way, and a tubing cutter. See if you can guess what parts store I went to based off the green color. Won't make any sense. But I think these are the right flares. I think the BMW uses a bubble flare. I'm fairly certain that is the right style. So what we're gonna do, won't be able to see it right now with the car on the ground, but there is that section right about middle of the door where I've already replaced the line from there to the back. And from digging around the other day, it does look like that line further to the front is the line that is causing problems. So we're going to undo the fitting that I put in right there and then trace that line up to, I would imagine, the master cylinder or wherever it is, wherever that line connects in the engine bay. We'll remove that line, try to get it out of the car. I know at one point it looked pretty pinched in there, but we'll get it out and then try to bend the store-bought line that I have to the right shape, and then we'll go ahead and get it back together, bleed the brakes, and see if that was the only spot. It was the only spot that was dripping, so I feel positive about just changing that line to fix this issue. But we'll get guess we got to get the car up in the air and double check that spot one more time. Just open up a little bit more room to see what we're kind of digging around from that set of 3 lines that come up, where I think 2 are fuel lines and the third one is the brake line in question, just to get a little bit better view from the top side to see where it attaches into everything. We're going to remove the intake boot, the mass airflow sensor, and the filter, air filter, and then we'll be able to kind of get more of an angled look to see where those 3 lines come up into the engine bay, and kind of see where our top bolt will be to remove it. We have our 3 hose clamps up here, which should release that section. And then we have 2 10 mils holding on the airflow meter and the air filter to kind of this bracket on the side. This should be the only plug that we need to get rid of. Okay, if we look in here, it's still not a great view. Dang. So you can see these 2 lines. You can see there's 2 lines right here, which are the fuel lines I was referencing. So there should be a 3rd brake line that runs somewhere with these guys. I can see it. I don't know how well it'll show up. It runs into this block over here. Look at how rusted that is. And then I guess the output of that runs to the ABS unit. So I don't want to rerun it too far. But man, that section, that block down there looks like it's going to be pretty tricky to get to. So we'll poke around a little bit more and see the best spot to add it into. You can tell which line I put in by it not having the proper bend, but we're going to go ahead and try to take this little guy off. Give a little dab of PB Blaster just to see what we can do. Well, day one trying to change out the brake line was unsuccessful. Couldn't really get much undone. It's like when you go to try to turn it, there's too much flex. So I'm gonna look up to see if maybe there's a specialty tool needed, or right now the best case scenario, or the worst case, easiest case scenario would just be to bypass that large section right below the master cylinder. I don't know if that has a purpose or why it's like that, but easy enough. I could cut the back, and then I can get it undone from the ABS area, so I can just run one straight line from the ABS all the way to the back. I don't know if that connection area does have a purpose or not, but we'll look into it and hopefully get back out here and get this project finished up. I'm back at the BMW. It's actually day 3 of trying to get this brake line fixed. Day 1 was finding out about it and looking around. Day 2, I tried all the nuts but can't really get anything to break loose. So day 3, I went out and got the right tools. So we have the flare nut tools. We have the brake line. If we get to that stage, I know it needs to get removed. So it'll be just a little bit more trying of that. We'll dig back into where the lines meet up here, and then of course we still have the lines under the car to get to, but I think we'll give it another hour or so of trying. But if we can't do that, I think I will just cut the line in the rear where the last patch job was. I don't know you would look at it and this line should be plenty to reach up, but with the extra elevation of going up into the engine bay, it might not quite be long enough. But if it gets to that stage, I'll cut the line, put that line in, bend it the proper way, and just get some type of brake line working again. And later down the road, when I try to do a little bit more work and have maybe the engine out or something like that, we'll go through and actually do it the right way with everything routed through the correct clamps and holders. But for now, I'll still try a little bit, see if I can get it off. We're under the car at the previous job. You can see it right here. I do think I start to strip these nuts, so we'll try a few different ways to see if we can finally get it loose. Getting the rear section to turn, but I think this connector is so rounded and beat up anyway, it probably would have been best to replace it, to cut it and replace it anyway. I feel like I'm just twisting the line back there. So I don't want to, just twist the line and then mess up something further back. I have to cut it anyway, I think. Okay, well, it looked like we got something to twist in the back. I don't know how much the bolt was coming loose or if I was just twisting the lines, but I'm going to switch to the front now and see if we can get anything loose down at that junction, because that's really going to determine what my next steps are. Hopefully I can get that part loose, because then I'll still be able to run this front line. But if I can't, if I can't get anything loose down there, I might as well just run a fresh line all the way to the rear. So I'll see what I can get done. Okay, I don't really know where I'm at with recording, but basically I can't really get that junction undone. I'm starting to strip everything out again down here with the hoses. I think I was starting to get that loose, but I also felt like I was twisting the line, and I would have to cut that one anyway just because I've tried so often on that one as well. I feel like I'm starting to round everything off. So luckily we're gonna go ahead, take this out, and this one I did loosen up the other day, so I broke it free the other day. So I know that this comes out quite easily. We'll go ahead and get this line undone. It is a pretty sharp turn right away, which I think will be the most difficult line. I'm not concerned. Let's get you some light. Not concerned really with running this line through these holders, although look at how dirty it is. Let's try to, should I try to wipe that up? Ooh, it's crusty down there. I don't know how it got like that. Blame it on the PO. So yeah, I think this bend's gonna be the toughest one to kind of match, and then we'll just snake our line down. We can even zip tie it along these and then send it down through there along with the fuel lines above the control arm bushing, and then we'll run it to the back. So grab some more paper towels just in case there's a little bit of fluid in here, but I don't really expect any. At this point we got a finger loose. There we go. We have our line off. We'll see if our flare matches. Start bending our new line over here and get it together. Don't hate me for this one. I got that line in with a larger bend, of course, but it just, something about it just doesn't feel right. It's secure. We have this running out. No, definitely. So we have it running out, and if the leak was coming from the connection hose further down, what I'm gonna do is maybe add a little fluid, put the end of this line, because it's still open on the back side. I'm gonna put that line in like a bottle or something to catch the fluid, and hopefully a couple of pumps we see fluid come out of the ends and not right there. A little bit more than I needed, but that proves that test. See, no visible fluid here. So we have a complete system out this line to the back. So I think at this point it would be best to bend it a little bit better to fit it into where we want it to be. Clip that line. I think I'll need to run to the store to get some connectors, but getting close. Okay, day 4 of our brake job, and it should be the last day. Where I ended the previous time was I had the new line run. I had the new line ran from the ABS unit, piped along the old line down underneath of the car. That line ended up being a little bit short to reach I guess the junction where we were before. So we could have just cut it and spliced it in right where it ended, because that part of the old line still looked good. But what I did was go back to the store, grab a little bit more line, 2 different sizes, and then I'm basically going to connect that new line that I just bought to the new line I installed the other day, and then we'll just take it back a certain amount of distance and then connect it to the line that I replaced several years ago. And then at that point we should be able to bleed the brakes, and then hopefully everything holds and the brakes feel a lot better. So let's get to it. Just starting to get a little organized for the next part of the job under here. You can see where the line ended from the front. And then basically we'll zip tie it up tight with these other lines. So I'm just trying to figure out where it might end, because I have two new sections. And it looks like the shorter of the new sections will be plenty long enough. So what I'm going to do now, my hands weren't blocking it, we'll just get this tightened onto one of our junctions, connect the other new piece to the junction, so these two will be in there like that, and then we'll bend this line just a little bit, find where it needs to go to, and then cut that line as well. And then of course we'll come back through and zip tie everything up. Good and tight. As you can see, it's much more line than we need. We really just need to bypass that connection. So I think it'd be best to zip tie that line on first and then bend the rest, cut, add in. Okay, an important thing I've learned from past mistakes is put your nut on before you flare it, you know? So with that, we have our flare tool, and we'll get to it. It should be just enough to poke out of the top. Okay, we're coming in here for attempt number 2 on a flare. Now we have these little, I don't know what they're called, die pieces or whatever, that we didn't have before. Now we're making it difficult. Didn't get the right flare. And even the internet said to use the flat side of this. So, we'll see. We got our nut on. We got one thickness of that sticking out. This is tight enough. Still a little wiggly being in the car. And basically, we slide that guy over. Not using those, using this bigger one. Hopefully that was it. Pop that guy off, get that out of there. Loosen it up, and first check looks pretty good. Let's get a close-up of that. I'm happy with it. Looking all around, don't see any cracks. So we'll bend it a little bit, get it to fit, secure it. Well, today was a bit of a shorter working day, having to run and grab the correct flaring tool, but I did get the line on, put the intake back on. Guess I can cap this now. Connected everything I unconnected earlier. Pumped the brakes a few times to check for leaks. There were no leaks at the top. Either of the junctions that we put in underneath the car, there were no leaks. So basically, the last thing to do is bleed the brakes. I looked at them and they looked a little rusty, and I just don't have enough time to get through it today. So I sprayed them with PB Blaster, and we'll let them sit overnight like that. Spray them again in the morning, and then tomorrow evening we should be able to bleed the brakes and have a fully functioning car again. Well, I'm out here trying to manually bleed the brakes alone, but I have my trusty tripod, so this will be able to hold the brake pedal down while I go to the back and then open up the bleeder valves and check the fluid coming out of there. So all we have to do is pump the brakes. It recommends 12 times, so it definitely is feeling better than the other day. So now we just take the tripod, if I push it far enough in, jam it against the seat, holds it down. We'll get under here. We don't really have any hose, so we'll just open that up and it looks like good stream. When I was testing it earlier, nothing came out, so we'll just close that back up. So I'm going to call that good. While we're under here, here's my leaking diff that looks like it was in the ocean for a couple years. Well, I took it around the block, tested it out with a couple slow stops, and then got it up to like 25, 30, and then slammed on them, and you know, they don't lock up, they don't screech. And I stopped. The pedal still feels a little odd, but I don't know if that's just me being a little paranoid after losing the pedal. The brakes were never, you know, I never felt like I was going to stop on a dime with them. And I think the little bit of fluid that I collected probably says that I should drain the whole system. But someday I do want to replace the soft lines, and you know, maybe at that point, what I was saying about running all new lines. But that's a project for another time. So I'm just going to double check it for any drips, but quick little road test says it's all good and ready to go. Not bad.